Those who manipulate others may exploit emotions or use blackmail to achieve their goals. But what happens when a criminal partnership is made up of two manipulators, each convinced they are the more intelligent and dominant one? That question arose in the case of a young woman named Lisa by Lakus, whose murder stunned the quiet resort town of Daytona Beach in Volusia County, Florida in November 1989. She was shot in the head while sleeping peacefully in her bed. The gunman was stopped at the scene by Lisa's husband, who prevented him from escaping the house. At first, the case appeared straightforward. The attacker was dead, and the victim's husband was hailed as a hero. However, the reality was much more complicated. As the investigation unfolded, authorities discovered another death and a disturbing plot involving two accomplices, each driven by hidden agendas and convinced they could avoid punishment, who were Lisa Lakus and cast off a topless Lisa for topless Napas. Lakus was born into a wealthy family of Greek immigrants. Her parents relocated to the United States and settled in Florida in the early 1960s. There they built a successful business in a well-known tourist area and gradually expanded it. By the early 1970s, they owned several prosperous companies, generating significant income. The past. Bullock is family. Lisa was the older child, and a few years later, her younger brother Dino was born. Their parents doted on both children, raising them with affection, attention, and a determination to provide them with the best opportunities. After completing high school, Lisa enrolled in a respected local college and later continued her education at the University of South Florida, where she studied economics and accounting. After graduating, the intelligent and dependable young woman joined the family business, overseeing the accounting for 3 of her parents' companies. By the mid-1980s, Daytona Beach was home to one of the largest Greek communities in the state. Members of this community were known for their strong mutual support and close-knit relationships. As for Konstantinos, known as Costa Fatalis, he was born and raised on the Greek island of Euboea in a middle-class family. After completing high school, he was able, with assistance from relatives and members of the Greek diaspora, to immigrate to the United States, where he continued his studies at a Florida university. Costa was seen as ambitious, self-assured, and daring. Someone who enjoyed being the center of attention. He possessed natural charisma and leadership qualities and was set on achieving a flashy, high society lifestyle. When Lisa turned 20, her parents began looking for an appropriate husband for her. Holding conservative values, they wanted their daughter to marry within the community and considered only Greek men as suitable matches. This custom of elders arranging marriages for their children was an old tradition still common in Greek communities, and Lisa did not oppose Costa. Tall, handsome, and well educated, he seemed like the ideal choice for the Bullock family. By that time, he was already well known in Daytona Beach, where he was developing his own business, and he was very popular with women thanks to his looks, intelligence, and strong charisma. The Young couple accepted their parents' decision. Their families arranged an extravagant wedding and made sure the newlyweds had everything necessary for a comfortable life together. Despite being a traditional arranged marriage, the couple appeared genuinely happy. In the fall of 1988, tragedy struck when Lisa's father died suddenly, a devastating loss for the family. Unable to leave her grieving mother alone, Lisa and Costa moved into her parents' home. The property was a large mansion with one wing occupied by the widowed Mrs. Bullock and her younger son Dino. Lisa and Costa moved into the opposite wing, effectively living under the same roof, while still maintaining their privacy. Each section of the house was fully self-contained, providing all the comforts they needed. Around this time, a new business opportunity and some questionable associates emerged in the southern part of Daytona Beach. There was a bar owned by a man named Tony Calderon, a popular establishment. Despite its small size, Tony was a capable businessman who understood how to run his bar and draw in customers. But he lacked the capital to expand further. That was when Costa approached him with an offer to partner up and open a new venue. Calderon brought experience to the table, while Fatali was prepared to invest a substantial amount of money into their shared enterprise. By early 1989, the two men had opened a bar called Top Shots Pool Hall. Notably, Costa financed the venture using money from his wife's family, as he had no personal savings of his own. Any income he had previously earned was spent on nightlife, luxury items, and firearms, which he was particularly obsessed with. Top Shots Pool Hall quickly became the most popular spot along the Daytona Beach boardwalk. Each evening, the bar drew in hundreds of tourists as well as local residents. However, in the late 1980s, Daytona Beach was far from safe. After dark, the area was frequented by drifters and young runaways involved in petty crime and occasional disturbances. Despite this, Costa managed to assert control, earning respect and establishing authority among these street youths. Not only did they stay away from causing trouble for the bar or its customers, but they also began doing small jobs for the owners in return for modest pay. In effect, Costa was using the labor of these runaways, assigning them the hardest and least desirable tasks. He succeeded in inspiring both fear and admiration in them, boasting about his supposed wealth and influence, and claiming ties to political figures and the criminal underworld. The directionless youths on the streets believed his stories, especially since he promised to help them achieve success if they obeyed him and followed his orders. Deceptive charm played a key role. In the spring of 1989, a 20-year-old woman named Dedra Hunt arrived in Daytona Beach. She came from a small rural town in New Hampshire, having grown up in a poor and unstable family, and had effectively run away at the first opportunity. She traveled south, drawn by the warm ocean, and searched for any work she could find. Dedra had striking, highly attractive features, a slim figure, and a natural charm that easily captivated men. She was well aware of her appeal and knew how to use it to her benefit. Starting romances came easily to her, but those relationships were rarely serious. The young woman walked into Top Shot's pool hall and was hired on the spot as a waitress. Her role involved serving customers while wearing a small beach bikini, something that did not bother her in the slightest. She felt confident and at ease in the revealing outfit, flirted with patrons, and earned generous tips. In fact, the bar's popularity noticeably increased after Dedra joined the staff. Costa was immediately drawn to the young waitress and began showing her attention. Dedra made it clear quickly that she was open to a workplace affair with her boss. Their relationship developed rapidly, though they tried to keep it secret to avoid gossip and scandal. Costa arranged for Dedra to stay in a comfortable hotel room near Top Shot's pool hall. He paid her expenses, lavished her with gifts, bought fashionable clothes, and took her on yacht trips out to see where they wouldn't be noticed. They spent a lot of time together, but always chose places where Costa was unknown, reducing the risk of being seen by anyone familiar. Lisa, being sharp and observant, soon realized her husband was involved with someone else and didn't believe his weak excuses. Still, she had no solid proof of his affair and didn't know the identity of the other woman. That changed on October 20, 1989, when a close friend told her she had seen Costa with a young woman who seemed to work at a bar on the boardwalk. The betrayed wife quickly realized who it was. And that evening, Costa returned home to a serious and tense confrontation. Lisa confronted him, stating that she knew about the affair and recognized the woman involved. She demanded that he end the relationship immediately to prevent it from becoming public and bringing shame to their family. Otherwise, she threatened to file for divorce, evict him from the family-owned mansion, take the car, strip him of all financial benefits, and go to court to reclaim the money he had spent to open the bar. Money that had come from her relatives. Costa acted as though he understood, admitted his wrongdoing, and expressed sincere remorse. He promised to end his relationship with Dedra and make things right with his wife. For the next few weeks, he played the role of the devoted husband, trying to calm Lisa and lull her into a false sense of security. In reality, Costa was terrified of losing everything and being cut off from the Bulick family's wealth and accounts. He decided that the only way to secure it all was to inherit it after his wife's death. With that conclusion, he began planning a dark crime. Costa intended to have Lisa killed in a way that would keep him free of suspicion. To carry this out, he needed accomplices, and he began carefully looking for them among the street youths who admired and idolized him. The shooting at the family home occurred in the early hours of November 4, 1989. An anxious young man called emergency services, reporting that multiple gunshots had been fired inside the house. Though he couldn't explain exactly what was happening. The caller was Dino Passport Lakus, Lisa's younger brother, who had been awakened by the noise and was unsure how to respond. He instructed his mother to lock herself in her bedroom and went downstairs to meet the arriving officers. Together, they made their way to the wing of the house where Lisa and her husband Costa lived. According to Dino, this was where he had heard the shots, and now he could also hear groans and cries for help. The scene the police encountered was horrifying. On the bed, lying in a pool of her own blood, was a young woman with a gunshot wound to the head. Costa clutched her desperately, pleading with the officers to save his wife. On the floor, face down near the bed, lay the lifeless body of an unidentified young man. He had been shot multiple times with a revolver lying beside him. Another handgun was found on the nightstand near the bed. According to Costa, while he and his wife were sleeping, an intruder, presumably a robber, broke into their room and shot Lisa in the head. The intruder hadn't escaped because Costa, awakened by the noise, grabbed a handgun he kept in the nightstand for self-defense. He claimed to have fired 5 shots at the intruder before delivering a final shot to the head. Costa claimed that in the darkness and confusion, he could barely comprehend what was happening and instinctively grabbed the gun to protect himself, his home, and his wife. It was only after he had neutralized the intruder that he realized Lisa was badly injured and bleeding. Fortunately, Dino had quickly called for help, and the police and paramedics arrived within minutes. The wounded woman was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. While no one could make promises at the time, it soon became clear that she would survive. Yet Costa's reaction to the news was unusual. He contacted his lawyer, seeking assistance to avoid being charged for the incident. The attorney, however, reassured him, insisting that Costa was not a criminal, but a hero who had stopped a dangerous intruder threatening his wife. Given the Bulick family's prominence and influence, the story quickly became public and received widespread media coverage. Most commentary came from Fatalis' lawyer, who depicted Costa as a brave and courageous man, a true hero, confronting an armed attacker. The incident was largely framed as a failed robbery attempt. According to the narrative, the intruder had broken into a wealthy home and tried to eliminate the owners as potential witnesses, but Costa fought back and neutralized him on the spot. This version of events was widely reported, and the nearly widowed man was indeed celebrated as a hero. While examining the house, detectives noticed that one of the panels of the glass sliding doors on the ground floor was broken. It appeared to be the intruder's point of entry. However, the glass shards were scattered on both sides of the door, which was unusual if the break had occurred from the outside. At first, this detail drew little attention. The deceased intruder had no money or valuables on him, items he could easily have taken once inside. This suggested that after breaking the glass and entering, he went straight to the master bedroom, which didn't make sense. He had passed by antiques, artwork, and a jewelry box left in plain view, all untouched. Moreover, the intruder had shot the person who posed the least threat, Lisa, who was sleeping. On the far side of the bed, away from the door. This meant he bypassed Costa to target her at close range. But why would he do that when it would have been more logical to confront the man first? On November 7, 3 days after the incident at the Bullock home, a young man called the police claiming that a week earlier he had been offered money to kill Lisa. He said the proposal had come from Dedra Hunt, who was having an affair with Lisa's husband, a claim that was quickly confirmed. It also emerged that even if many people didn't know the details of the affair, they at least suspected something was going on. Dedra needed to be arrested and questioned immediately, as she was at the very least aware of the planned crime. She was taken into custody that same day without resistance. And it was clear that the development didn't surprise her. She immediately offered to cooperate with the investigation, but also said she feared for her life and wanted assurances for her safety. The waitress claimed that Costa might kill her if he discovered she had started talking to the police. Hunt admitted that her affair with Fatalis had begun the previous summer. She knew he was married, but that didn't concern her. Her wealthy lover had promised a glamorous life together, but for that to happen, Lisa had to be removed from the picture. As a result, Costa stood to inherit her assets and collect a substantial insurance payout. Dedra took it upon herself to find a hitman, and after a couple of failed attempts, she hired 18-year-old Brian Chase, promising him $5,000 for the job. She also gave him a revolver that Costa had provided, intended to be the murder weapon, and instructed him on how to enter the house. The plan was initially set for November 2nd. But the inexperienced hitman only succeeded on his third attempt. On the first day, he was scared off by a car pulling up at a neighboring house. The second day, Brian failed to break the sturdy glass door and nearly woke the entire neighborhood with the noise. By the third day, Costa, frustrated, broke the glass himself, causing the shards to fall outside rather than inside the house. Chase managed to get inside and, following the instructions, went straight to the master bedroom. His gun was loaded with 5 bullets, which he was supposed to fire at the sleeping Lisa's head, but after the first shot, it jammed. At that moment, her husband Costa opened fire and killed the hitman. When the police asked whether Costa had planned to pay Brian, Dedra said no. According to her, the hitman was doomed from the start, because Costa never intended to leave any evidence or witnesses. During questioning, it emerged that a few weeks before the attempt on Lisa's life, Costa and his lover had killed another young man from among the homeless youths who trusted the businessman. His name was Mark Kevin Ramsey, and he had just turned 19. The criminal pair lured him into the woods, convincing him to allow them to tie him to a tree under the guise of some initiation ritual. Once Mark was restrained, Costa handed Dedra a silenced handgun and instructed her to shoot the young man. Meanwhile, he stepped back, took out a video camera, and recorded the entire event. Costa wasn't visible on the footage, but his Voice could be heard giving commands. Dedra claimed she was terrified of her lover and did everything he told her. She fired 3 shots into the young man's chest and finished him off with a shot to the head. Her account seemed bizarre and almost unbelievable, but she revealed the location where it had occurred. Investigators soon discovered a decomposed body tied to a tree with 4 gunshot wounds, exactly as she had described. But why would they target an innocent young man who trusted Costa? Detectives believed that Costa, the manipulative schemer, wanted leverage over Dedra, ensuring she wouldn't go to the police by making her complicit in the crime. He had effectively turned her into an accomplice, guaranteeing that if he were ever caught, she would face prison alongside him. Following Dedra's account and the discovery of the body in the woods, police arrested Costa and brought him in for questioning. As expected, he denied any wrongdoing, insisting that he loved his wife and would never harm her. He called Dedra a liar and a blackmailer obsessed with him, claiming she might have hired the hitman herself to eliminate her rival, suggesting her motives went beyond mere infatuation. She was infatuated and sought the same glamorous, wealthy lifestyle. By that time, Lisa, who had been hospitalized, had regained consciousness and was able to give a statement. She revealed that she knew about her husband's affairs and had threatened him with divorce at the end of October, warning that she would cut him off from all financial benefits. After that, Costa had promised to end his relationship with his lover and tried to make amends. But shortly before the attack, Lisa noticed Costa acting suspiciously in the backyard and suspected he was hiding something near the barbecue area. A search warrant was issued that same day and detectives indeed found a securely hidden black bag in the spot Lisa had mentioned. Inside was a handgun fitted with a silencer. Ballistic tests confirmed that the gun was the weapon used to kill Ramsey, supporting Dedra's statement, although only her fingerprints were found on it. Without the video, it was difficult to hold Costa accountable. However, during further searches, investigators found the crucial tape hidden in a bag in the garage. The footage clearly showed Hunt firing 3 shots at the young man tied to the tree, then finishing him off with a shot to the head. It was still difficult to definitively identify the male voice heard off camera. Both individuals involved in this high-profile case faced the death penalty and were aware of it, so each tried to shift the blame onto the other. The situation was not as straightforward as it seemed. During the investigation, it also emerged that Hunt's mother suffered from mental illness and was often hospitalized during episodes. Her mother barely cared for her, and it seemed that Dedra may have inherited a mental condition by the age of 10. Dedra was also subjected to inappropriate behavior from one of her mother's partners. As a teenager, she discovered the power of her looks, which captivated men, and she began using it to her advantage. Costa was the first person to seriously promise marriage, and since life with him seemed comfortable and secure, the idea of eliminating his wife for insurance and inheritance appeared to her an excellent plan. She actively took part in planning the crime, found a hitman, and even suggested to Costa that they get rid of him afterward, framing it as a failed robbery. Dedra proved to be just as manipulative as Costa and equally greedy for money. However, the moment the police closed in, she immediately turned on her lover, trying to save herself, reduce her responsibility, and lessen her sentence. The trial of the two offenders began in October 1990. By that time, Lisa had recovered enough to testify against the criminal pair. She was the first to clearly identify the voice on the tape as her husband's, a voice she could never confuse with anyone else's. Her testimony was later corroborated. Dedra claimed that Costa off-camera had threatened her with a weapon and said that if she didn't kill Mark, he would kill them both. However, the footage showed no sign of fear on her part. She appeared calm and even asked the cameraman not to shine the light in her eyes, but to focus it on the victim. Costa, meanwhile, insisted that all the evidence against him was fabricated and that Dedra was the one trying to ruin his life. He maintained that an intruder had entered his home and that he had been defending himself and his wife. Yet, the key piece of evidence confirming his guilt was the very tape originally recorded to serve as leverage and blackmail against the young lover. On October 25, 1990, both defendants were found guilty of conspiracy, the premeditated murder of Ramsey and the attempted murder of Lisa. Additionally, Costa was convicted of the murder of Brian Chase. The criminal pair was sentenced to death by electric chair. In 1995, her sentence was reviewed and commuted to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Costa repeatedly filed appeals, but his sentence has remained unchanged. He currently remains on death row awaiting his fate. If you found this case fascinating, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We post crime case videos every night. Until next time, stay sharp, stay vigilant.